In 1964, Russian astrophysicist Nikolai Kardashev figured that civilizations can be categorized by the total amount of energy available to them. He called it the Kardashev Scale. He initially came up with 3 civilization types: Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3. According to Nikolai Kardashev, a Type 1 civilization has access to all of the available energy of its home planet. A Type 2 civilization has access to all of the energy available on its home star, and a Type 3 civilization has access to all the energy available in its home galaxy. Now, the Kardashev scale may be one of the best in terms of measuring and understanding the progression of different types of civilizations in our universe, but it too comes with some limitations. The main criticism of the Kardashev scale comes from the fact that its approach solely relies on the available energy of a civilization as a means to measure its progression and how advanced it is. So, the more energy a civilization possesses, the more advanced it becomes. Furthermore, under this model, it is assumed that every advanced civilization would want to expand further and further outwards into the universe, consuming more and more energy as it expands. This, of course, is based on the very limited sample of human history available to us. But this may not be the only way of looking at things. Many others have since proposed changes to the original Kardashev scale using different metrics such as mastery of systems, amount of information used, or progress in control of the very small as opposed to the very large. So today, we are going to be exploring an alternative version of the Kardashev scale, Microdimensional Mastery. But as always, be sure to subscribe to our channel if you want to see more content like this. Microdimensional Mastery extension of the Kardashev scale was first proposed by an English cosmologist and theoretical physicist, John David Barrow. Barrow did not focus his idea on the expansionist history of humans like Kardashev. He instead chose to focus on the fact that humans have had better success trying to manipulate microstructures like molecules and cells. He observed that humans have found it more cost-effective to extend their abilities to manipulate their environment over increasingly smaller scales rather than increasingly larger ones. So for Barrow, manipulation at the smallest of scales like the atomic scale and beyond was the way to go instead of the outward expanding idea proposed by the original Kardashev scale. Barrow therefore proposed a reverse classification downward from type 1- all the way down to type omega-. According to the Microdimensional Mastery version of the Kardashev scale, a civilization that is capable of manipulating objects at a macro level is considered to be a type 1- civilization. This type of civilization is capable of controlling matter at the observable level. This means that it could manipulate only the things that it can see with the naked eye or touch with its hands. In other words, any civilization that is a type 1- in the universe would be able to work over the scale of about 10 to the 0 or 1 meter. So it would pretty much be able to manipulate objects over the scale of itself. This would include things such as tool making or building small shelters like huts, cabins, or shacks. Moreover, a type 1- civilization could also accomplish features such as mining of resources from its home planet, along with building other more complex structures such as water dams and other such things. Now, to be able to achieve a type 2- status, a civilization would need to have mastery over the scale of 10 to the -7 meter under the Microdimensional Mastery model of the Kardashev scale. This means that a type 2- civilization would be capable of controlling and manipulating genetic codes. Not only would it be able to alter its own genetic makeup, but it would have total control in altering the genetic makeup of any other life form it shares its home planet with. Moreover, this type of civilization would be able to develop new biological life forms from scratch, or perhaps even be able to transplant or replace biological components from any species it chooses. Another distinction of this civilization would be the development of species domestication, also known as forced breeding, that we humans are capable of today. The next step from a Type 2- civilization is a Type 3- civilization. This type of civilization would be capable of controlling and manipulating matter over the scale of about 10 to the negative 9 meters. This would allow a Type 3- civilization total control over molecules and molecular bonds. It would be able to manipulate molecular properties and chemical bonds to create brand new materials unknown to its kind. Not only would it be able to create these brand new materials from scratch, but it would also have the understanding to change the microstructure of pre-existing materials to create custom materials with specific properties for specific uses. Under this model, we humans can be considered a Type 3- civilization, since we too can manipulate molecular structures and bonds to our liking. A Type 4- civilization would have reached levels far beyond a Type 3-. So, a Type 4- civilization would be capable of working over the scale of 10 to the negative 11 meters. This would allow it total control over the manipulation of individual atoms in the universe. This is extremely impressive since all the visible matter in the universe is made up of particular arrangements of atoms. With this type of control, this civilization would be capable of creating nanotechnologies on the atomic scale. It would even be able to create and manipulate complex forms of artificial life to its advantage. This is where we humans are today in terms of our progression down the Microdimensional Mastery scale. So, can we progress further than this? Well, only time will tell. In order for humanity to advance on the Microdimensional Mastery scale, we would need to be able to work over the scales of around 10 to the negative 15 meters. Now, a Type 5- civilization is capable of exactly this level of control. It would be capable of controlling and manipulating the atomic nucleus, which is far smaller than even the atom. In other words, a Type 5- civilization would be able to work with and manipulate the individual protons and neutrons that live within the center of the atoms. This level of control would be highly advanced and far beyond our current capabilities. So a civilization of this status would easily far surpass us humans in every way imaginable. Going beyond a Type 5- civilization, we have a Type 6- civilization. This type of civilization would not only be able to control the nucleons in any given atom, but also be able to manipulate the very elementary particles of matter. To be able to achieve this, a Type 6- civilization would need to work over the scales of 10 to the negative 18 meters. This would allow this type of civilization total control over fermions, which include quarks and leptons. Now, the feats that a Type 6- civilization would be able to achieve with this level of control are far beyond what we can do today. So a Type 6- civilization would pretty much be godlike to us as far as we understand. According to Microdimensional Mastery, a Type Omega- civilization is the ultimate civilization that there is. It is capable of working at the Planck length of 10 to the negative 35 meters. This kind of mastery would allow it to manipulate the very fabric of space-time itself. So a Type Omega- civilization would be capable of controlling and manipulating the very fundamental structures and elements of space-time. To us humans, actions of such a civilization would be undetectable and indistinguishable from natural events. Furthermore, a Type Omega- civilization would be equivalent to the concept of God that we have today. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you enjoy videos like these, make sure to hit the like button, share with your friends and family, and subscribe to our channel for more content. Also, what do you think of this alternative Kardashev scale? Do you think microdimensional mastery is the way to go for civilizations? Or is expanding outwards the only way? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. Until then, we'll see you in the next one.